Okay, I've got an afternoon with nothing else on my agenda. And so what I think I'm going to do is start painting this 1/32 scale resin figure of a French aviator from the Great War, done by Copperstite Models. I've already cleaned him up, primed and zenithal primed him. I'm going to go to my old favorite Vallejo Model Color Brown Rose as the base skin tone. And because I always start with the faces and the hands first, my theory being that if you do a good face, you can get away with a lot of other minor foibles. So I'm going to get going on that and put a couple thin coats of the base color on, and then we'll go from there. Okay, I have put on 4 thin coats of Vallejo Brown Rose as the base skin tone for the face and hands, and that is drying now. The next step will be to go to the eyes and get those tackled and out of the way. I think that's the most critical thing on a face. And the first step is to do the whites of the eyes, or at least that's the way I go. But of course, the paint won't be white. That's just far too sharp and jarring. And what I use is AK Interactive Clear Doped Linen, which is a real pale, whitish, yellowish beige. Beige, there we go. That's what it is. So I'll do that and put those in. It's okay to make that a little bit bolder and bigger than the actual whites of the eyes will be, because we will be cleaning that up later. Okay, I have to admit that I rushed through a couple of steps without taking a pause here because I felt I was on a roll. I was originally going to show a clip that just showed how the whites of the eyes looked after I had put them in, but they seemed to be just about what I wanted, so I proceeded with the irises and put the blue in. And then I thought, what the heck, might as well add his bushy mustache, which I did as well. Now, my pilot is looking off to the side with his eyes sort of averted to the right, and at least from his perspective. And that's okay, because I don't have him cross-eyed or bug-eyed. I was pleased. As always, I put the left eye iris in first because I'm right-handed. And that way, in terms of how I hold the figure, the brush tip is not going to hit the bridge of the nose. And then I flipped it over, which is so I could do the same thing on the right eye. I saw it was the iris was over towards the left iris was over towards the center, which meant that I had to make sure that I got the right iris in the same appropriate spot when I did it. And I think I succeeded. I'm pleased with the result. Then I cleaned up the whites. They're not white, of course, they're beige, and proceeded to put in the mustache. What I used for the iris was AK blue-gray, and my favorite hair color, dark hair color for figures, mahogany from Vallejo Model Air. It's a really great consistency and almost acts like a speed paint. So I've got that in now. Now, what I'll be going back to do, of course, is starting to highlight the flesh with lighter tones on the upper cheekbones, a little bit of the forehead that is showing, the chin and the nose. Do that, try and blend that in. And that'll be the next step, and then we'll go from there. I don't think I mentioned the brushes I'm using. All the brushes I'll be using to paint this are the Monarch Pro Sable series. Right now I'm using the smallest one, a 2. Numbers are really meaningless because every manufacturer sizes the brushes in their own way. And I'll use a 3 or a 4 when I get to the larger areas like the uniform. But right now it's all been done with Monarch Pro Sable size number 2. Really great points. These sable brushes cost about 50, 60% of what a lot of other brands do, but they're just excellent. So that's what I'm using. And now I've got to get out some light highlight flesh color, which I will blend in with my existing brown rose to get a first stage highlight flesh, and be back to you after that, and then we'll see how the face looks. Okay, it's time to put highlights and shadows on the skin. And for that, I'm going to be using Vallejo Light Flesh blended in with the base color, the base skin color brown rose. For the highlights, I'll be using just a little bit of flesh wash in a couple of strategic locations. And I will be using AK Cheekbone Glaze, which gives sort of a purplish bluish tint. I'm going to be glazing that along the jawline of the pilot. So in the wet palette, there on the right is the light flesh. Obviously, I always squirt too many drops into the wet palette, and then I blended that over on the side here with the brown rose to get an intermediate shade, and that's what I'm using for my highlights, the bridge of the nose, the forehead, the upper portions of the cheek, and the chin. And the flesh wash, usually I draw that across the lip line and the mouth, but that's pretty much obscured now by that bushy mustache. But I will be using it on the hands and just a little bit around the edges of the mouth. I have not yet done the cheekbone glaze, but I have mixed it up. It needs to be really, really diluted in order to produce a nice, very thin glaze, probably about 4 or 5 parts water to the glaze itself, which is quite syrupy. And there it is, waiting to go on. So let's see how I did here. Okay, so now I've got the highlights in along the upper parts of the cheek, the chin, the bridge of the nose, and I'm waiting for all that to dry, after which I will put on the cheekbone glaze. I put flesh wash along the tops of the hands to define the fingers, finger lines. It does leave a glossy finish, but of course that'll all be flattened out when I seal it in with a flat, clear varnish. So see if I get in closer here. Yeah. Even out a little bit. I'll have to even out a little bit the line on the upper cheeks there. Give that bridge of the nose another coat, as well as the chin. It's a very thin layer of the light flesh, the blended light flesh. But I'll get to work on all that now. So here's my pilot, glazed and maybe 90% done in terms of the face. I really won't know until I put this video together and see how he looks on the big screen, which of course will be far larger than he will ever be seen in actual viewing, especially when he's hopping out of an airplane. I haven't decided on the uniform colors yet, because I don't know if I'm going to make him a French pilot or some other nationality. The uniforms are pretty ubiquitous, and you can pretty much decide what you want to do. And I could do them in blue or khaki or olive or black, brown, a variety of shades, maybe something with a little pop. But so far, I'm pleased with how he has turned out. It's a really nice sculpt. I think one of the newer figures from Copper State models, or Copper State models. So anyway, that's it. I'll attach this and get the video up and then see how it looks on the big screen, and then go back and make a few more touch-ups on the face. There's always something to be done, and then get going on the helmet and the uniform and the boots. Thanks for watching.